Everybody has a story, but not all stories have been told. This is Benson the Storyteller, and these are some of my untold stories. Guys, you can see the bus that you're taking and how long it's going to take to arrive. You know, you can also see the departures and everything. It's written very clearly. That's why I like this new bus system. Yeah, they also have it written here, so it's very hard to get lost. Yeah, and also I wanted to show you guys these things over here where you can just put your phone, and it's called, I don't know, it's called a air charging. Yeah, so very nice technology that I didn't know existed. But anyway, yeah. Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Benson the Storyteller, for those of you who might not know me. Welcome to my untold stories. For those of you who are repeating viewers, welcome back. Today I'm seated over here. I'm actually, let me show you guys. I'm actually at the bus station. I'm just seated over here at the bus station, talking to you guys. Those of you who watched my videos, my previous videos, I was talking to you guys about why we moved from Australia back to Kenya, which was basically because of tribalism, which is at that time was very rampant in our government. And since my dad happened to come from a tribe that was not very favorable to the government, we had to be sent packing after his first term of 4 years in the Kenyan High Commission in Australia. I also told you guys in my previous video about my classmates, about my first instance of bullying by a kid called Ben, that started in grade 1, I think. I also told you guys in another video about my first interaction with racism also in Australia. I think you can watch those. You know, if you look down, you'll see untold stories, and on top of that you'll see the episode number. So I think it would be either episode 4 or episode 3 that I was talking about those issues. Now, I also came across one of my old pictures, and maybe I wanted to share with you guys a bit. If you look at the picture that I'm just uploading, you're going to see a picture of my classmates. If you look at the middle row, at the extreme right, that kid seated there is called Manoa Makendawiri. He was a friend of mine who was from either Zambia or Rwanda, I can't remember very well. And the second from the right, on the middle line where people are seated, is me. Yeah, that young boy over there, innocent looking, very shy. Yeah, that was me. And just next to me on my right, which is the third person from the right, the seated, is Ben. Yeah, he's the kid I was talking to you guys about in my other video. And in front of us, seated in the first bottom row, is Esther Duffy. She's the one seated between me and Ben. All right. And if you look at the middle row also, at the far left side, The person on the very far left in the middle row is Matthew Barley. And then you would skip the girl next to him, and the third person from the left is Hayden Patterson. So those were some of my best friends when I was in grade 1, and I was with them all the way to grade 3, because I was in Australia for 4 years, and the very first year I hadn't started school. I started school in the second year. So I was with these people for 3 years straight, and it was a very good experience, and I got to learn a lot from being with them. Now, today's video, I'd like to tell you guys about what happened when we went back to Kenya. I told you guys that on our way back we took Qantas Airlines, which is the Australian airline. And what I remember about that plane was that it was a double-decker plane. I haven't seen one since. When you enter the plane, there's a row of seats, and then there's a staircase that goes up, and there's another row of seats. So there are 2 rows of passengers in one big plane. Yeah. So from Australia we traveled to, I think it was Zimbabwe, because there was no direct flight to Kenya. So we went from Australia to Zimbabwe, and then from there, no, I'm on YouTube. Yeah. And from there we traveled to Kenya. Now, when we arrived in Kenya, you remember we came from the village. We came from Kisumu, so we hadn't lived in Nairobi that much. So when we went back, we didn't have a place to stay. So we were staying at this hotel. Now, this hotel, I think it was called Heron Hotel. Heron Hotel, you know, there's this roundabout, the Uhuru Highway and Kenyatta Avenue roundabout. So you take the Kenyatta Avenue, you'll pass on your left the Holy Family Basilica. Then on your right you'll pass State House Road. You'll go straight. You'll pass the road that goes up to Community. You'll pass the former Trade Bank, which is now ECC. The corruption building, anti-corruption building, and you'll pass the criminal, is it where the central, the criminal, what do you call that place? Is it the CID headquarters? I'm not quite sure. You'll also pass on your right, there's this big Maxwell SDA church. You go straight. I'm not sure the name of that road. Maybe it's Milimani Road, I'm not sure. But if you go straight, on your right there's a hotel. It's called the Heron. I think it's called the Heron Hotel. Yeah, it's called the Heron Hotel, I think. So immediately we came back to Kenya. We didn't have a place to stay, so my dad had organized for us to stay at the Heron Hotel. Yeah, it was a very nice hotel, because I remember we were on the first floor of the hotel, and there was a swimming pool. Yeah, I remember there was a swimming pool, but by that time I don't think the swimming pool was really functional. But I remember I used to climb up all the way up. There was a floor up there in the Heron building that there was some kids used to be trained some karate lessons up there. So, you know, in those years I was, you know, I really fancied this whole Bruce Lee martial arts thing, and so I used to just go there and watch them train. And, you know, I was very young, but I was in grade 3. But I used to like just go there and watch, you know, I thought it was really cool. And that's how I met, there's this guy, he was called Peter. Peter used to work there. He was one of the workers, but he was a very kind man. He was a very kind gentleman. I used to climb up I think they had their rooms were on the very top floor, and I used to go there, and there were some pieces of wood. I used to like throwing them down from that floor, and then they used to like move in a circular motion like a helicopter, but then they used to fall into the swimming pool. And I remember there's a day he came up and found me there, and I was so scared. I was like, no, don't be scared, but don't be littering, you know. And we started talking and we became friends. Yeah. And looking at it now, you know, sometimes when you're young, you don't know risks, and you know, you take everything just the way it is, and you know. But he was a nice person, and I'd always, you know, I had a lot of time because we are not yet back in school, and my dad, when we came back to Kenya, despite the fact that we had to move from Australia because of tribal issues, he was not taken away from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So he still worked with the Foreign Affairs, but not in a foreign country. He was just brought back to work in Nairobi. Now, I can't really remember how long we lived in Heron Hotel for, but it was quite a while. And during this time, I guess my parents were trying to figure out which schools they were going to take us to, you know, the transitioning thing. But the good thing is that during this time, my dad had bought, when we were still in Australia, my dad had bought some property. He bought a house in Donholm, I think an estate called Savannah, and he'd also bought a house in Ngumo. It was called, it's in Highview Estate. Highview Estate is the estate that its gate is opposite KEMRI, Kenya Medical Research Institute. There's a road between and they face each other. It's just next to it, borders Mbagathi Primary School. Yeah, if you've ever been to those sides of Kenyatta Market. So when we moved out from at the hotel, Heron Hotel, we moved to Highview Estate. My dad had bought a house there. So when we moved there, that estate, it's kind of like a semicircle. No, it's a circle. And the houses had just been built, and they were still relatively new. And I remember there were two sides of the estate. There was side A and side B. So most of the kids had to pick a side. So technically I was on the side A because that's where our house was, but my friends were on side B. So we lived on side A, but then I'd go play on the other side, side B. But the crazy thing is that the kids in side A and the kids in side B never used to get along. I don't know why. It's just something that happened. They had some kind of beef. I don't know how it started, but you just when you go to Rome, you just go there and join the program. And those were the days when the biggest thing, the big deal was owning a BMX bicycle. Those days, having a BMX bicycle was a very big deal. Or if you didn't have a BMX bicycle, you'd have a Comerella. Yeah. And the thing was that the big deal was having a BMX bike and knowing how to do what we call a wheelie, you know, pulling the front wheels up and riding using the back wheels. And we'd try to beat each other at who would do it, ride with one wheel for the longest. So we stayed in Highview. I remember with time I made a lot of friends there. There was our immediate neighbor, he was called Oliver, and Brian. And then there was Joseph on the other side of the road, and his younger brother, I think he was called Aizo. And then we also had a guy called Kenya, and his brother Albo, and his other brother called Mr. White. But they were older than me, yeah, most of my friends anyway. And we also had a guy called, their house was next to the gate. He was called Kim Shah. His sister was called Tichi Nyasani. She used to be in one of the radio stations. The dad was Professor Shiwani. He was a university don, I think, a professor in the university. So yeah, we had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends. And I remember by that time, the area, the environs of our estate wasn't really safe. Because on one side it was Kibera slums, but we hardly ever used to go there. But my mom got a job because she was a teacher. Remember, before we went, she was a teacher. So when we came back, she was assigned to that school. It's called Shadrach Kimalel Primary School. It borders Laini Saba, that part of Kibera. To go there, you take number 33. And this, coincidentally, number 33 is the same bus that we used to take when I was going to go to school, to the school I was going to start going to. And I'll tell you about that school. It's in Embakasi. Yeah, so I remember that place wasn't very, very safe. And there's a time I had a bicycle because we'd been bought. I remember I told you guys my dad bought us bicycles when we were still in Australia. So when we came back with them. I had this bike, but then it wasn't a BMX bike. It was these bikes that don't have brakes. If you want to use the brake, you back pedal. You know, you don't use the handles for the brakes. You back pedal to use the brakes. So I remember sometimes we'd go, all of us from side A, all the kids, we used to just go with all our bikes. You know, if someone had a puncture or someone wanted to go and add pressure on the tires of the bike, we'd all go in a group and ride to Kenyatta Market because there was a petrol station there just next to Mbagathi hospital. So I remember we used to ride the bike then. That's the first time that I remember I was almost robbed. I was almost robbed there because there was a main road. It was called Mbagathi Road. It came all the way from one side went to town. The other side, I think, joined, was in Gong Road. I don't know. I can't remember the roads. But on the other side, it went all the way to Langata. So on the junction between Mbagathi Hospital and Mbagathi Road, there's this a petrol station. So that's the petrol station we used to go to add pressure onto our bicycles. And so I remember there's a time I went there. So I'd taken some of my friends there. So as I was on my bike just waiting for them, on the other side of the road there are some informal structures that were put there. There are people who are selling, I think they used to sell charcoal, but they had these informal structures like tents. So there are these boys who used to like robbing people there. You know, they'd wait for people to pass after work, and then they'd basically grab you from the back, you know, around your neck. In Kenya we call it ngeta. Sometimes they put some metal rod from the palm to the elbow, and then they get you from the back like this, from the back, and then they lift you up so your legs are hanging, and then they go through your pockets. So there were a lot of those type of thieves there, but there were also young kids, the same age as us. They were just young kids, but they were also robbers. You know, it wasn't just the big boys and the big men. There were also their kids, the young kids. So I remember when I went to the petrol station and I was just on my bike, I was waiting for my other friends to finish adding pressure on their bicycles. These two kids come and they're like, could I please have could I have a ride on your bike? And I was like, no. And before I knew it, because I had a brand new watch, I'd bought a brand new watch for my birthday. Before I knew it, they'd grabbed the watch and they were struggling trying to steal my bike. And I remember there's there's this boy, he's our neighbor, we've gone with him, he's called Munene. He used to be very tall, and he was by that time I was in class 3, and probably was in high school already. So he saw the commotion. I was struggling with these 2 boys. They'd already managed to rip out my watch from my hand, but they were also trying to steal my bike. So he came and he chased them off. And I remember my watch was gone, and my bicycle also went. And I later learned that there are several instances. There are different estates there. It's not just Highview Estate that borders that area. There's also Mbagathi Estate, and there's some other estates. I've just forgotten their names. But usually kids from the middle class, whenever they went there, they used to be robbed by those kids all the time. So it wasn't really something new. It's just that we didn't know, and we got to learn that it was really dangerous to go there. So we actually stayed there for almost my whole primary years, because my mom worked there, and my dad also, as he worked in Nairobi, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's where we used to live, and we lived there for very, very long. The last time I went there, I found that the place had really changed, because the estate, it's made in a way that it's round, and in the middle it used to be just like a dump site. People used to dump things there. There used to be stray dogs. There used to be, it used to be a mess. But the last time I went there, I found that they'd cleaned the middle part. It was like a park. There were swings for kids. There were seats. And yeah, it was really nice to see. Fine, thank you. Yeah, it was really nice to see the changes that had happened there. And so we'd stay there for a lot of years. We lived there for so many years before we had to move again back to Kisumu. But that's a story for later on. We'll get there, but I'm still just telling you about Highview Estate and where we used to live. So my elder sister, me, my younger sister, and my last born brother, because when we went to Australia, my last born brother wasn't yet born, but he was born in Australia, and so we went a family of 5, but we came back a family of 6. Yeah, because my younger brother was born in Australia, and yeah, so we came back. We lived in Heron Hotel for a while, and then from there we settled down at Highview Estate. And yeah, that's how we came and started living in Nairobi. Now, in my next video, I'm going to tell you guys about how I started school and the transition from, school in Australia and then suddenly having to go back to Kenya and trying to adapt with the system. There's a very big difference in the education system, the way teachers and students interact in class, and generally a big change for someone who'd gotten used to living in Australia to come back and live in Kenya. So in my next video, I'm going to tell you guys about that transition and how it went, and how generally life in school was in the school that I was going to go to. And it was a lot of challenge, but it's going to be really fun, telling you all the stories and the things that happened in that part of my life. And so please guys, if you're new, subscribe to my channel and watch my videos. And For those of you who are regular viewers, please continue watching, and thank you for supporting my channel. So I'll see you guys on my next video.